Well, good morning. I'm Brent Adams here with your Rural Strong Morning Ag Report for this Tuesday, September 19th, the 262nd day of 2023. Leading off the headlines this morning, House GOP moderates and hardliners brokered a short-term spending framework to keep the government open, but its chances in the House were uncertain and likely nil in the Senate. Not all GOP hardliners were on board with the stopgap bill's 8% across the board cut to non-defense agencies like the USDA, tougher border security, and exclusion of Ukraine funds. That left its House fate far from certain and likely doomed it in the more bipartisan Democratic-run Senate, forcing tough negotiations, a Senate ultimatum, or a government shutdown. Top House Ag Appropriations Democrat Sanford Bishop dismissed the original GOP ag spending plan. Hardline rules panel Republicans sidelined in July.
The majority is returning American agriculture back to the 2007 funding levels. When you cut through all the rescissions and the repurposing of funds, we end up with an allocation of $17.8 billion. This is $8 billion below the allocation for the FY23 bill and $13 billion below the FY23 bill when emergency funds are considered.
Ag Appropriations Chair Andy Harris repurposed $7.5 billion in used funds from the Biden Climate Health-related Inflation Reduction Act to boost the bill's advertised price to more than $25 billion.
This legislation supports critical ag research and plant and animal health programs. It invests in rural communities. It expands access to broadband, and it provides nutrition assistance to those in need and ensures that American consumers have a safe food and drug supply.
But with an 8% added cut to domestic agencies until the end of October, the broader stopgap faces a steep climb with razor-thin House GOP majority and likely no chance in the Senate, working on bipartisan spending bills, increasing the likelihood of a showdown before the end of the month and the fiscal year. While our current trends of shrinking cattle supplies and higher prices going to continue into 2024, here to fill us in is USDA Radio's Gary Crawford.
This year and next, many of us may be asking that immortal question,
where's the beef?
Where's the beef? Last year, the U.S. produced almost 28.5 billion pounds of beef, 28.5. The forecast for this year?
Just under 27 billion pounds.
USDA's Outlook Chairman Mark Jekanowski says the current declines in cattle numbers and beef production are expected to continue into next year, with production down again in 2024, down to about 25 billion pounds, a drop of around 6.5% from this year.
So supplies tightening up.
Pushing steer prices up. For this year, USDA forecasting an average price 178.5 per hundredweight.
And for 2024, that's expected to increase by about $7 per hundredweight to $185.50.
An increase of about 4%. We'll get more data on the cattle situation Friday when USDA releases its cattle feedlot report. Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
Jekanowski says hog producers could see some better prices next year.
According to USDA data for last year, hog prices averaged over $71 a hundredweight. This year, that price is more likely to average only around $59. However,
we do expect that to increase next year.
This even though pork production's not likely to be much different than this year. So what is motivating USDA Outlook Chairman Mark Jekanowski into projecting a price rise next year?
Several factors, including continued strength in demand, as well as, tighter supplies of beef that should also support pork demand and ultimately hog prices.
Which he says could average $64.75 a hundredweight next year. No, it's not up to last year's $71, but it's a lot better than this year's $59. Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
Jekanowski also offered up 2024 projected forecast for broiler production and prices.
Broilers, we're looking at year over year an increase in supplies, production up 620 million pounds to 47.3 billion pounds year over year. Prices for 2024, given those higher supplies, we're forecasting slightly lower prices. So 2024 broiler price is right now at $1.21 per pound, and that compares to 2023 price forecast that we have at $1.23 per pound. So year over year, down just under 2 cents per pound.
Also, this morning, a group of senators last week penned a letter to the Food and Drug Administration calling for enforcement of dairy label regulations. Specifically, the letter asks the FDA to crack down on non dairy, lab grown products illegally labeled with dairy terms. Senator Tammy Baldwin, a Wisconsin Democrat, says the effort seeks to get the FDA to, quote, do its job, unquote.
This letter really tries to draw attention to this sort of newer entry into this challenge, these lab-based, quote-unquote, dairy products. It doesn't make any sense. These are modified microbes that they mix in a lab and put in all sorts of additives to claim at the end that they've created a product that's identical to that found in cow's milk. I don't buy it, and I don't think that consumers should be misled.
Current FDA regulations define dairy products as being from dairy animals. However, the FDA has failed to enforce these regulations, allowing non-dairy products to use dairy names. Senator Baldwin has been leading the charge for years to get the FDA to properly enforce their own guidance on dairy labeling, introducing the bipartisan Dairy Pride Act again this year.
I'm extremely frustrated because you shouldn't have to introduce legislation to tell an agency, do your job. But that's the position we find ourselves in. And, I'm glad that we have a good bipartisan group that's telling FDA to do just that. We want to advance the Dairy Pride Act either alone or in concert with the Farm Bill, and we want to get the job done. Our dairy farmers work so hard to produce a second-to-none product and have to deal with these headwinds that include the FDA not doing its job.
The National Milk Producers Federation welcomed the effort. As President and CEO Jim Mulhern stated, Americans need marketplace transparency, integrity, and protection now more than ever, as new products and processes are transforming what consumers find on the grocery shelves at an increasingly rapid rate. And finally, this morning, this is Farm Safety and Health Week, and farm equipment operators and motorists both need to observe safety and rules on rural roadways, especially during harvest season. More from USDA Radio's Rod Bain.
With harvest season already underway or soon to start across much of the country, both operators of tractors, combines, and farm equipment, as well as the general motoring public, need to practice farm safety and awareness.
From the motoring public side, we want to talk about passing farm equipment. You can't pass ag equipment in a no passing zone. Second of all, is to be taking a look for that ag equipment to be making left turns in the farmstead. From the farmer side of it, to take the time before you hit out on the road and make sure that all your lighting is working and that your marking is clean, visible, and retro-reflective, and also that it shows the size of the piece of equipment.
Dan Eden of the National Education Center for Agricultural Safety says equipment at rural roadway safety and consideration is one of several awareness topics within 2023's National Farm Safety and Health Week this week. More information is available online at necasag.org. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
Well, you can keep up with the latest from the world of agriculture each day by subscribing to the Tractors and Troubadours podcast from Rural Strong Media. Each week, I bring you agriculture industry newsmakers, hot-button industry issues, educational features, and the best in traditional country music. The Tractors and Troubadours podcast can be found at ruralstrongmedia.com or wherever you get your podcasts. We also invite you to join us daily on Rural Strong Radio, our 24/7 streaming radio station found at ruralstrongmedia.com or on the Live 365 streaming radio app for your mobile device. Each day, we bring you award-winning agriculture programming, as well as the best in traditional country music, mixed in with a little bluegrass, western swing, southern rock, and inspirational music. Again, the place to find Rural Strong Radio is ruralstrongmedia.com or on the Live 365 streaming radio app. We're portable, so take us with you everywhere you go this harvest season. We'll get you through those long, challenging days this fall. Well, I'll be back here again tomorrow for another Rural Strong Morning Ag Report here on Steve Shetler Media. Make it a great day, everybody.